Alright, I'm going to start with these couple of drawings that I did immediately after I heard of the project. And when I was looking at the videos in the assignment sheet, there were two things that really influenced me, and that was this sort of dynamic movement with points that represented or augmented the movement of the marble, and movement itself. Some of the models would move because of the marble, and those are the two big things that I wanted to capture in my model right away. So my first idea was basically all these points that represented movement and this big bird structure that would sit on top of it. And what I wanted is I wanted the marble to move through this thing and somehow move the wings upwards as if they were flapping. And I thought the best way to do this would be to create some sort of elevator almost, of some sort, that would pull the middle of the bird downwards, and it would pivot perhaps on these points right here and right here, and it would cause it to look like it's flapping. I thought, well, perhaps there could be water under here, and it can celebrate a really specific point of contact between the building and nature, almost like a bird swooping and touching water just briefly, and that the marble could go down the wing and mimic that very special movement. Another thing is that I wanted that contact to be very, very dramatic. So as you can see, as opposed to all this craziness, the middle is very regular, very calm, but very dramatic. So the marble would go somewhere and it would disappear, and I wanted it to reappear at the bottom in this very dramatic way. You can see here it would have been 10 slips of paper. The middle would have been the most light where the elevator is, and as it got closer to the sides, it actually get darker because of the openings in the paper, and it would add to that drama. And here you can see that the weight would pull the wings downwards, cause them to flap. I was brainstorming what the wings would look like a little bit, and then more on how the wings would work with the overall structure. Once I got my first idea, my first approach was to create these pieces. There's a lot of random pieces here that I would put together and kind of form what I was thinking, and I would replace them with other ones or add them just to get an overall picture of what I wanted it to look like. And you can see one thing here. This is pretty cool. I really like these pieces. As you're approaching the building, the way I was thinking of it, you would see this view on the side, and you would know that there's a full triangle there, but yet you don't see the whole thing. And it's almost like a metaphor, perhaps, a hint that there's something much more to this building than what's originally anticipated. So that the wings are hiding, but once the marble moves through the structure changes and the wings change, and the experience of the marble would change, and it would be very, very dramatic and special. So I moved from that. Once I got an idea, I drew up this sort of sketch here of how I wanted it to fold together. One sheet of paper. Immediately I planned it here with the ruler, measured everything out, and this was my first prototype. And I cut it out and I folded it, and this is what I came out with, and it falls down very easily, which I didn't like. It didn't have a lot of structural support. So I decided, well, maybe I should put some sort of X on the back, because the back is where there wasn't support, and that could support it better. And it kind of worked, but it also really didn't. It still fell down. So I decided to make the entire thing an X. So that's where this idea came from. The whole thing turned into an X, except it wasn't big enough. So I created this over here. And you can see it goes from X on the back to the full X to a large one, except I didn't like the bird. So I started to brainstorm what this bird right here could look like, and I thought, well, maybe I could expand the wings this way, and then eventually I came up with this design right here. I really liked this quite a lot, so I decided, that this was the way that I wanted to go. I love the way that it was supported, and that if I use bigger paper, more support, and more of an artistic component, it would work perfect, and that's where this idea came from. Since the sides of this didn't have any more triangle shapes, which I liked on that one over there, I found a different way to really add something special and intriguing on this. And I created a space on the inside, a special space for the elevator, using a lot of repetition, because that's what I wanted. I wanted a lot of craziness, but then something very predictable and calming in the middle where the elevator was, where that celebration of contact took place. That's where that idea came from. So I started to make a larger one, and I didn't like how this turned out. I thought, well, there's got to be a better way than to just have these slips of paper falling all over the place on the sides. So I came up with this floor and this model, and it held together perfectly. The only thing I didn't like about this model is that there's this big floating banana on the back, and this is because I ran out of room on the paper that I was cutting this out on. So I needed to figure out a way to make bigger wings, since I didn't have room for my favorite design, which was that one. So that brings me to the final model. I adjusted the wings so that they would fit, and I used this technique that I discovered back there to fold outwards and expand the wings, and I did that back there too. But I also, instead of going upwards like I did on the banana over there, I went downwards, but I folded backwards, and it created the wing that I wanted, and it created a lot of volume and depth while looking at the front of this like that. And I really liked it. So after that step, I had to come up with 3 drawings to augment or represent that structure, reimagine that structure is the word I'm looking for. So I started brainstorming, and I thought about my video, the video that I chose. Now, the original video I was trying to find was a bird swooping, like I was initially saying, that would come down, it would make contact with water, catch a fish or something. That's what I wanted. But I couldn't find any that represented the fine movement that I wanted the marble to experience, because the marble wasn't viewing the bird catching the fish. The marble was the bird. And I tried a bunch of point of view videos, but it was really just the sound of wind and some bird's head rapidly moving around, and it wasn't really what I was imagining. So I actually found a video of a waterfall, which was very different than what I was expecting, but it represented this movement perfectly. And it was drone footage, actually, over Niagara Falls, and I thought, well, a bird could see that. A bird could see that easily. And I thought, wow, well, people could only dream of seeing some of the things that a bird can see. And I realized that, with all this repetitive movement, all this vertical movement, a waterfall was perfect. And it represented not just contact by physically touching it, but by viewing something so remarkable. And I thought, well, this building could do the same thing if it was situated over a waterfall. So I started to reimagine the landscape that it would take place on. That it would sit over a waterfall. And I decided to switch this around, so the neck's actually on the other side now. But I started to imagine this, what it would look like, how it would be supported, and what I would draw. So this is the floor plan of the first floor. And how it would work is you'd be coming down this trail and you would approach this garden. And there wouldn't be any hint as to which way to go, but you would know that across these short walls the trail continues by the gap in the trees, and that either of these ways could potentially take you there. So if you were to go this way onto this boardwalk, this kind of floating boardwalk, you're immediately surprised. You heard the river from over here, but now you're standing over it and you have this remarkable movement underneath you that immediately draws your attention to the building, and it urges you to move that direction, to feel excited, caused by all the points of the bird and the exciting movement of the water, and that you're going to get one remarkable experience. And that would take you to the elevator room right there. And if you were to go around and through these pathways, which are right there, decided that those would make great pathways on the sides. You would take these steps downwards. So you'd take these steps downwards to this overlook, and this overlook is remarkable because it's floating in space. If you look this way, you see the waterfall. If you look over here, you see everything beyond the waterfall. You're literally standing at a bird's perspective, what a bird can see. And you can see that boardwalk floats over, the water moves rapidly underneath it, and I tried to capture some of the shadows. You move from kind of a dark experience to a light experience if you're looking at the viewpoint from here, and it really creates a dramatic experience there, all the shadows. Or you can look from this side at the coming river, and that itself is also a very interesting experience, to move against that current on your way out and to feel like you're flying fast or moving fast. This is the top of the bird, so the elevator. I thought, well, maybe there could be laminated glass, like in these gaps, that would allow you to look down below and at the bottom of the elevator. So if you were standing in the elevator, if you were going up the elevator, it would actually cause you to look down. And the neck of the bird would also block your view. And the reason for that is to create a surprise. So if you were to come up and around here, you would have this remarkable view from the side of the bird's neck, as and you would realize that you're standing on its wings. Over here, there's a view of the river and perhaps the valley beyond the backside of it as well. For this experience, you're flying over here. You're flying. So those are my 3 constructed drawings and all my other sketches. I'd like to take a moment to kind of show some of the special shadows. So you can see, almost looks like there's water underneath this. And You can see kind of this very intriguing shape sitting on top of this calmness. And that's what grabs your attention. The bird grabs your attention. You can see those walkways there. And one thing that oddly happened a few days ago is a family favorite, a chicken, got hunted by some sort of animal here, and that chicken was actually strong enough to fight the animal off, even though it broke its leg. But because of that, I decided, instead of the phoenix, which originally I was thinking, I thought I could name it Zelda. And what's remarkable about that chicken is, well, she's strong and she's beautiful. She has these white and black feathers. That she was a Plymouth Rock, and created this striking contrast, and was immediately eye-catching. I was thinking yesterday that these shadows capture the same thing, and I realized that that's the beauty of change. I was not originally planning on a waterfall. I was not planning on naming this Zelda after a chicken instead of a bird that most would consider a lot more mighty. And I realized that change is personal. When you're developing a project, if you're developing something for clients and they want things to change, that's the beauty of it. Is that it changes and that it fits the people that it serves. So that's my final model over there. Those are all the other ones in my drawings.